I really believe they should create a way for if you're going to review somebody, you have to be a customer of that business.
Yeah.
And there should be blowback because I've gotten reviews on my dental practice that I know is on a different practice, but the name's similar and I can't say anything and HIPAA and this. So I believe that for the sake of sanity of Earth, for Yelps and Googles and Facebook comments, that you should be afraid to post a review if you haven't consumed the service.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Go Live. I'm your host, Joshua Scott. Guys, this is episode number 31, streaming live on Facebook. And I've got the King of Nachos. I'm sure you hear the nacho jokes nonstop.
It's real. I was just walking around with these nachos. I have them at all times. So, you know, I don't want anyone to not get the myth. So it's true. I have nachos at all times.
It's a superpower, man. They're falling out of your pockets. And
yeah, exactly. Travel ones.
Guys, this is Dr. Paul Goodman. And I was just telling him before we got on the show, I said, honestly, we were sitting here this year looking at guests and kind of thinking through, because I do one of these a month. And I've always kind of been like, man, I want to connect with Paul, but I should probably go meet him first. And then I can ask him to be on the show. And finally, I was like, you know what? Forget it. Let's just sit down and talk. Because I love what you're doing and have been admiring it from far. So how's the week been so far, man?
Hang in there. I always say when you do these things, what's interesting, you know, I'm 43 and it's like you used to go to college and you mention someone's name and they say, oh, I can't believe you know that person. I saw you post last night. And Cliff Moore, who's one of my favorite dentists and people, is like, oh, I like both of you guys. You know, so I think Facebook and the online community has kind of become the new hangout session. So I love doing these and hanging in with my week, doing dental practices, Dr. Nacho stuff, brokering practices. I'm the type of person who thrives on having a lot of different things to do. Maybe, you know, not a traditional dental personality. I like doing a few days of clinical, a few days of consulting stuff, selling practices. So it makes for a fun but busy life.
Yeah. Do you, you know, there's like this spectrum, right, between like chaos and boredom. Yeah. And I feel like my life is, I try to live in this really elegant, sweet spot in the middle. And I swear it's like this big, you know, to where I'm not bored, but I'm not just out of my mind. Where do you fall? Are you?
Well, I'm glad you said that because this is the sign that my team got me near my computer all the time. So I fall in, to me, I think that there's always room for a new good idea, but not to be too judgmental with what you move forward. So, you know, I've always wanted to have specialists in my dental practice and look for them. And, you know, I'm weirdly a very patient person. I don't always come off as patient because I'm talk fast and people say being around me is like being around a friendly tornado, but I'm really willing to be patient with good ideas. I just like to do fun stuff with people. Hopefully, you know, I think life and earth, especially during a pandemic, can just be brutal, difficult, things that happen in your control, out of your control. So the more I kind of have an MBF attitude, must be fun to do stuff. But fun can be intense. You know, doing fun stuff isn't. Have you ever been on a vacation with your family members? Can be quite intense. Supposed to be fun. So yeah, that's kind of how I am.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't deal with chaos as well as you. Like I admire some of you guys that can just live in that. I have to like create boxes and organize things with little labels and like have a comprehensive plan of what's going on. Yeah. But I think that's like I've recognized this. Some of the most intense seasons of my life, I also look back at them and go, but I was also having the time of my life.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Fun can be intense. Well, hey man, you know, you mentioned Cliff Moore. He's been a long-term client of ours and honestly just friend, great guy. But you've got this group, I mean, one of the largest Facebook groups out there with Dental Nachos. Give me a little backstory on how that happened and how you guys have built that.
Most of the time when I would lecture on my favorite things, I always draw these things. You know, I have this thing, like if someone's like, what does Dental Nachos do? I'm like, it helps dentists go from this to this, right? You know, I like drawing things. And one of my team members and associates says, you're like Bob Ross. And Bob Ross used to be the painting guy, said this was a happy accident. So back in the olden days of 2017, there was I was on Facebook, saw these dental groups. And I said, you know, I want to make my own just to talk about implants and practice management, but still be parts of other ones, you know, Business of Dentistry, Nifty Thrifty, Elijah's group. But I wanted to have my own. And I said, you know what, maybe like a few hundred people will join. Yeah. And my wife and I were sitting around saying, like, what should we call it? And I said, well, I love nachos. There's a lot of different toppings. She helps me with this. So the concept is twofold. I'm a broker, a speaker, a dentist, a dad. So I have a lot of toppings. I love Mexican food. And then I always say, when you get nachos, they're meant to be shared, but they also get pretty messy. So conversation between dentists and humans, I call them, it's supposed to get messy. I'm really into having, you know, I'm a big fan of Mark Costas, having uncomfortable conversations for growth. And that's okay. You know, it's what I think is crazy, Josh. I was at the gym this morning. I don't look like Mark Costas, but I was at the gym. Everyone goes to the gym, this small group fitness, and they want to be put in an uncomfortable place. They want to lift more weight. They want to run faster, whether they want to look better on the beach, whether they want to be more flexible for whatever reason. But they totally get that I'm in a place where I'm supposed to be uncomfortable. Then you take dentists, and unfortunately our training is so horrible with mental flexibility that when they feel threatened, use a different lab, try this technology, be this way, they shrink away from it. But that's where all the good stuff happens. So I was just on the phone with Todd Fleischman, who's one of my best friends in Philly. I got him to lecture. And he said, the more Paul Goodman kindly annoys you, the less annoyed you'll be in life. So just listen to him. But he gives me grief. So I say, words are so important to me. People say, push people out of their comfort zone. That sounds terrible, right? Well, how about this? Just gently guide people out of their comfort zone. Much better, right?
Yeah.
You got to be pushed out of your comfort zone. I don't know. I like my comfort zone. So that is how Dental Nachos, a collaborative community to end the dentisting Hunger Games, collaborate, not compete, be kind to each other. I'm a big Mr. Rogers fan. Mr. Rogers is an amazing person. People think of him as this kid show guy, but Mr. Rogers was, if you ever saw Won't You Be My Neighbor, he was talking about gun control, racism, stereotypes back in the 1980s, but he was doing it from the model of this is how we should want our children to learn. And if I can just be part of the solution to dentists, the dental community, being nicer, supporting each other, caring about each other, that would be great for me.
Yeah. I love that analogy because honestly, some of the best food and best food experiences are some of the messiest. I mean, right. About just sitting around with some of my friends, like eating hot wings,
yeah.
Like, and it's all in your beard and everybody's having a great time. And so I love that.
I'm going to share one thing because I said on my friends, there's also a funny comedian. It's not my joke, but he always goes, and sharing is hard because who's going to take that last chip with all the toppings, even amongst friends, right? So there's a sharing with wings. Who's going to take that? So that's such a good point. Sitting around, messy hot wings, having conversations. That's what I want the Dental Nachos community to be.
Yeah, I typically have no problem taking that last chip.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, you just know what you want. You're bold.
Yeah. Or maybe I just feel that secure with my friends. It's like, they're not going to judge me. I'm free to take the last one.
Right.
You guys, you've got this kind of maybe mission tagline that I saw out there that I love, but it says helping dentists increase happiness by decreasing annoyance. Why is annoyance like such a big deal in dentistry that you guys are taking it head on?
That's a great question. So I have some props. So if you want to know, so you're not a dentist, you're a normal person, Josh.
I'm a normal.
You want to go to dental fantasy camp.
I'm an outsider, but I'm normal.
But if they could let you do a filling on a patient who doesn't want to open or lean back in the chair, this is how it feels on the inside. This is you on the inside, right, Mr. Grumbly? So there's so many annoying things that happen, and I try to use humor, but it has meaning. So when you get into the real world of dentisting, the real game, it's so different than dental school. And the number of patients you got to see, the people you got to manage, the decisions you got to make, and the stuff, these micro bits of stress. I talk about this, micro bits of stress. Mm-hmm. So if someone asks you as a dad, if I walk out of this podcast and someone goes, "Are you a happy dad?" I hate that question, right? Because I always feel like I got to come up with some really thing like, yeah, my kids are the best thing ever, even though they're having meltdowns on the floor, right? Is this the best thing ever? So I always say people can identify with annoyance, okay? And anything that removes annoyance makes people happier. Ride sharing has been a great thing for me in Philadelphia. I used to have to stand on the street holding my hand out for a taxi, and now my phone brings a car to me. So that is an example of I'm less annoyed because ride sharing exists on earth. So whatever I do for dentists, whether it's I use this core as the example. Dental school focuses on hands, and I really want to say words and your mind skills, business, leadership, that's your whole core. So I want to help them remove annoyance in their daily dental life, both personally and professionally. And this is really why. Dentists are very hard to be around outside of their office because I believe they bring a lot of stress home, which is totally normal. Because when you go 6 to 8 hours, my wife came to my office the other day, Josh. She spent the day with me, teeth whitening, filling, cleaning, stuff like that. She said, this reminds me of being a kindergarten teacher. I used to go home from teaching kindergarten and sit on my couch and tell no one to talk to me because the amount of questions I had to answer, the amount of things that went micro sideways. Yeah. It's more than what people can see. And I would love to, you're the video guy. Maybe we could do this one day. I would love to create a behind the scenes of dentisting for the public to see what a dentist does when they're not smiling in front of you saying, oh, you can get a crown. And that's kind of what my goal is with increasing happiness by decreasing annoyance.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so true. That'd be such a fun project. I'm just to that point too, where I'm like, sometimes if things cost me $25 extra, but I'm like, I don't have to think about it. I'm like, it's like easy, like using money sometimes to even solve annoyances. Like, don't need that. Vanessa Vitaliano is on and says hi. What's up,
Vanessa? Can't wait to see you guys next week.
I know we're all going to be there. It's going to be fun. You guys also have, I've noticed these themes that kind of run through your groups, and I think this comes from you, but a lot of like mental health and wellness, a lot of like social media kindness and the anti kind of bullying. Tell me about that. Like, where's that coming from? And
I mean, because I am 43, so I didn't grow up with Facebook or Instagram. So I've run C courses. I was one of the original people on Dental Town. So I'm used to what the Taylor Swift would call haters, people who don't, aren't fans of you. But I've never seen this ability. I would play a lot of sports. I run a dental practice. If you want to have an argument with someone, you literally have to do it in person, and it has to exist there and then be done. And maybe you talk behind someone's back to one or two people, but it exists in that basketball team, exists in that office. But social media has created, I believe, just too much toxic sharing of what you don't like about someone, where you can just JSN, just say nothing. I mean, I kind of try to live by, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Definitely don't post it on a 20,000 member group. I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan. He always talks about context. So, we do this all the time. I'm sure my wife will make maybe a minor complaint about me to her friends, right? At some point. Paul's on his phone too much. Maybe they don't know the context. So my message is, we can disagree with respect. Don't say anything to someone you wouldn't say to their face. Ask good questions. Reach out to them one-on-one. I mean, I was captain of a basketball team. If one guy was messing up, I wouldn't call him out in front of the whole team. After practice, I'd say, hey, when you yell at the other players all the time, I just want you to know that really doesn't make you likable. And people are noticing that. But if we're all sitting around the huddle and I say, hey, Bill, you're yelling at players, he doesn't hear it, right? Because you put on defense. So I don't like how the dental school world kind of pits us against each other, makes us feel inadequate. And I just believe a better world is totally possible. And hopefully we'll build that together.
Yeah. It's such an important topic, man. And sometimes I get in these groups and you just see the screenshots of messages and threads. And sometimes I'm just like, how do you say that? Like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even care what the issue is. Like that dude that just said that, like, bro, I mean, you and I are not even living on the same planet.
I think because, Sebastian, if I can add some value to your life, if you don't watch this person, it'll add a huge value to you and Joanna's life. And everyone should listen up, okay? This will change your life in the best way. If you have not seen Sebastian Maniscalco's comedy, you have a lot of joy to consume. So if you know who he is, go home and watch his specials. He's 45 years old. He's hilarious. Met him in person. He's blown up. He's got a very Seinfeldian vibe of what's wrong with people. But a couple things that he said, because comedians are like philosophers. So 2012, when I was watching him, he said, these people used to be in their basement and now they're online yelling at people. And I'm not saying this from dentists, but we allow everyone to have this online opinion. And it's unfair how it's delivered because many times the people they're talking about aren't even there. So I believe there's going to be a social media reckoning, not just in dentistry, just on earth, because it's just running at such a hot level that there's so much opportunity to use social media to connect. But it's kind of like my mom said, this is why we can't have nice things. I mean, I made a meme of that, of everybody loves Raymond mom, grandmother, being like, hey, dentisting humans, we're breaking the internet, right? Like this was designed for us to connect, share, and we're using it in ways that unfortunately are bringing people down instead of building them up.
Yeah. Have you ever been the spotlight of social hate?
I have been numerous times. A lot of it is because people, if they reach out to you, so I'll use a great example. In the early times, and this was a classy move, somebody who I'll see next week who I'm close friends with came to see me at Original Voices of Dentistry. Early days of this stuff, maybe even 5,000 people in my group. Okay. I gave a lecture on practice sales for 50 people. They were sitting there, these two people. I didn't know they thought of this about me. They were laughing. At the end of the event, they come up to me and they said, I just want to let you know, Paul, we thought we were not going to like you, but we really like you. And I said, could you have just said the second part? And I said, tell me more about that. And they said, the way you post online has made me annoyed, but I realized That was my issue, not yours. Because when I hear you in person, and I'll give you a perfect example. When you text, I don't text my wife, we're out of paper towels. Are you a brave man to do that? Because if I text my wife, are we out of paper towels? She may not hear it as there's a spill on the floor with our 2-year-old. She may not hear it as I see a sale for paper towels. Right. She may hear it as, are you saying I don't stock paper towels? So if I say, this is a really good example. If a practice owner comes to me in New Jersey that has a 5 operatory practice that does over $1 million and wants to sell his practice, I will have 5 DSOs interested in that practice before it hits the market for private practice. Yeah. And likely it will be sold to a DSO and it will never be in front of a private practice buyer. So the reality of what DSOs have done, not bad, not good, not evil, is that they get a lot of first looks at the best practices. I'm a practice broker, Josh. I live this world and I'm sharing these thoughts with you. Yeah. So if I was a private practice dentist, I would look to make unique connections because there's practice opportunities you may not see. So what I tell you, Josh, is to go to study clubs and meet people and get that person that says, oh yeah, my dental school friend is selling, okay? Did that sound like reasonably helpful information to you?
100%.
Yeah. So if I post every one of those sentences, it's read in the voice of the person looking. So if I post the same content and someone says, thanks, Paul, I didn't know this existed. And someone else says, you're being too negative. Does this mean I'm never going to buy a practice? So what happens is you lose context online. And I would love for people to just, I'm part of this new platform, Club. I'm not part of it. I just am a member of Clubhouse, which is voice. And Gary Vee talks about voice. I believe the contextless posting on Facebook and Instagram, there's going to be a blowback to it. Because it could be everything. I know you have children, I have children. It could be everything from a 20-year-old college student saying, I'm so happy to be on my family vacation, to people saying, what do you think? You're a rich kid. What do you think this? So I think the contextless posting, if we turn it into video and voice, it will make some improvements. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. And I've really loved where things are going with video, just even the way we're consuming that, because you are getting the tone, you are getting the context for it. There are some people, yeah, dude, I'm all about, like, I think you ought to have a license to text. Like, you ought to get certified. Yeah. There was like my mom, I'm like, Mom, you can never text again, because it just, like, by the time it gets to the other person, like,
yes.
You are not allowed to type like that.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I love that. I'm going to use that right down. You are not allowed to type like that. That's great.
Yeah. So, I completely, totally think that's a great idea. Just getting that back is huge. Yeah. So yeah, I think unfortunately it's like those voices get so loud, and some of us kind of just step back and we're like, oh, we're just going to do the gentlemanly thing. We're just going to like keep our mouth shut. But I think at some point here, some of those other voices are going to have
to. Well, it's such a good point. And this is what I do. So a lot of times people don't understand the Dental Nachos Facebook group. So I just want to know, I'm glad people think I'm new, but I'm 43. So I have been running CE courses at Maggiano's Italian restaurant since I've been 25. So people will come to a CE event and it will be $150. They will eat chicken parm. And around the group, there will be sponsors. There will be a bank. There will be a marketing company like you, and there will be an accountant. Everybody gets this, right? You walk into the event, and if you need an accountant, you might talk to them. If you don't need an accountant, you don't. But I describe Facebook groups like free parks in Philadelphia. You can walk into the park and you can walk around. Around the park, there's sponsors that sell stuff: beer, wine, cheese, plants, whatever. I go to one every week in Philadelphia. I love it. I get the tomato pie. It's fantastic. So if you want to buy something, you can buy it. And so for some reason, dentists, they've distorted how we think about money, that they get offended for the opportunity to purchase something. But what I tell them is, in my day, Josh, if I wanted to learn about new composite, I had to get on a train, go to New York City, to the Greater New York Dental Meeting, walk around, and now I can do it from my phone. So let's appreciate this. And there's a great comedian, Mark Norman. If you look him up, he's hilarious, okay? I know him. So I'll kind of give the punchline to one of his really most hilarious jokes. The best way to not be taken advantage at a farmer's market, you want to know the best way? Ready? So when you go to a farmer's market with your kids and you think they're trying to scam you with the cheese, okay? You think this is a cheese scam. Just want to tell you, this is how you can do it.
Right.
Don't buy the cheese, okay? Don't buy it. No one has once taken your wallet at a farmer's market, thrown it at the IPA guy, and bought it. So I tell dentists, you have full power to never buy anything, but the fact that we're creating virtual networks, not just Dental Nachos, all these places, you're so lucky that you can learn about. I'm doing a loan repayment webinar on Tuesday with one of my sponsors, Travis Hornsby. I am going to sit in front of Zoom like we are, and I'm going to tell dentists through Travis how student debt works. How cool is that? Like, if you want to use this Travis's service to do your debt, great. If you don't, you can just listen. So I believe that this is like Gary Vee talked about. I mean, it's like an industrial revolution. It's an internet revolution. And we haven't figured out how to manage all this. We haven't figured out the seat belts and the speed limits. One of the things I'll share, I know you're a marketer, is I really believe they should create a way for, if you're going to review somebody, you have to be a customer of that business.
Yeah.
And there should be blowback, because I've gotten reviews on my dental practice that I know is on a different practice, but the name's similar, and I can't say anything, and HIPAA and this. So I believe that for the sake of sanity of Earth, for Yelps and Googles and Facebook comments, that you should be afraid to post a review if you haven't consumed the service.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I always kind of go back to this mentality. It's like we live in this such an abundant world. Information, wealth, like whatever you need, choices, like philosophy, religion, all these things. And when we live with this like zero sum mentality of I've got to get mine and protect my space, that's what's like, yeah. And I'm like, you can believe that, man, go that way. Like all the freedom in the world, like buy, not buy, like think that way, don't think that way. But dude, there's so much abundance in the world that to act like that with everybody else is,
oh, for sure. I mean, we just need the voices of positivity, or just knock it off things to be louder. You made such a good point. Whether it's a baseball game, a comedy club, hecklers are annoying, but nobody wants to stand up to hecklers. But the second the bouncer comes, or the bar guy who's, a guy at the bar who just won't show up, as soon as everybody goes, I'm so glad that bouncer was here.
Oh, I know.
We don't have those people on social media. I mean, if I'm not, Mark Zuckerberg has not asked me for any advice on how to run Facebook, surprisingly. Okay. So some people say this to me, Josh, this is great. When I started Dental Nachos, and I always had sponsors from my CE, but I was like meshing sponsors into the group in the early days, right? Yeah. So there was $0, right? Yes, I could promote something. So people would type to me, Paul, you must be making a lot of money from your Facebook group. I go, who's supposed to be paying me? Do you know Mark Zuckerberg? Am I missing out on dollars? So what I share though about Facebook is, if Mark Zuckerberg wants to keep attention for people like me on other stuff, I believe they need social media bouncers to monitor this somehow, because it's too much what people say wild, wild west. Just coming out of the blue and telling people, cursing at them, saying horrific things. It's like this, I don't know if I'm making my point clear, like speed limits, seatbelts, they got to figure this thing out, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. What I love is because we've all seen, and we all know the dental groups where that is not regulated either. And I think so much of us, we bounce to groups like you, what you have, because of that. Your guys' Dental Nachos has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of your kind of primary focuses has been a lot of CE, correct?
Yeah, well, I love that, because before the pandemic, I love Peloton. So I wanted to do in-person. So I wanted people to come in person and meet people, like a Peloton studio. I wanted people to watch like a TV show of their favorite instructor, like Peloton. And then I wanted them to be accessed on demand. So that's what we really love doing that.
Yeah, yeah. So what does that look like? And I know you've done one event or more in Philly.
We've done multiple ones. So we do 2 events a year. Pretend the pandemic didn't exist. We do a team-based practice management event called Dentist Team Boost. We get like 12 instructors to come. And there's a place called the Comedy Cellar in New York, and there's a Comedy Store in LA. Mm-hmm. And they have like awesome comedians come and do 10 minutes. So I like to have awesome speakers come and do an hour each. So you get like all these different things. And then I usually will have one incredibly high-level chef, Jason Smithson, Pasquale Venuti, come and do a whole weekend. So people like clinical can do that. And that's what I love doing. And then what I did was I would live stream this to Earth. So we'd have a team, like a video team, and people could pay to get see and watch in. And it's more than that. Like they get to feel like they're part of the experience. So I really love doing that part, but kind of like this live stream, on demand, in-person combination.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously you're seeing that kind of move forward. Where are you guys at with your in-person stuff? What are you seeing?
I mean, I did this thing called the Dentist Super Boost recently, And I loved it. It was 3 days, 18 hours, and I replicated online. And I'm standing in the same place. I can't move my computer, but this is like a, I don't know, 8 foot by 8 foot studio.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you authentically, I was a little sad when it was over, because usually I would go out to dinner with speakers and I would meet people and I put all this energy in, and the show was great, but everybody was just in their own home. And it was really kind of sad for me at the end that there was nobody to hang out with or nobody to say, oh, your lecture was good. So we've just basically been doing the CE on TV, I call it, and on demand. And I'm scheduling our first in-person one in August. But this is like, I live in Philadelphia. I love history and I always walk around the parks. So it's like, we're back to like these states issues. In every state, it's different. So PA is a lot of work to determine how many people can be in a space. What can it look like we're in this space? So we're slowly getting back to doing in-person stuff, but I believe it's been really bad for dentistry. I'm not gonna say this. It's been really bad for dentists that we've missed an entire year of face-to-face interaction. It's been a problem.
Yeah, I agree. Love that. I know that your wife works with you as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how that came to be in her role.
Really great question. So as a young child, she dreamed of being Mrs. Nacho, and her dreams came true, and that's the end of the story, right? Some want to be princesses, no, but I have an amazing wife who's a lot different personality than me, as expected. Classic. I know these might not be the most up-to-date terms, but I'm obviously classically extroverted. She has more introversion, but she's super creative with marketing. So she was a kindergarten teacher. She got to kind of temporarily retire when we had our first child 6 years ago, because where she worked in the inner city was just brutal. So she got into photography. And then as I was building Dental Nachos, there was no playbook to build Dental Nachos, which is fun, but it also, Reese Harper, I don't know if you know Reese Harper, him and I were on a podcast once. He said something that I will never forget. He said, you know who had it tough with business? The first dentist, because how much did they charge for a filling? And that resonates with me, because there's no circular, to use a dated term for us, or there's no reviews on how much should a CE course cost? How much does helping person buy practice cost? So I'm building these things, and as I build them out, Mary has been super helpful in our creative team using Canvas. So she works with us 15 to 20 hours a week in the team, helping us, supporting with marketing stuff, branding. One of the things I don't know if you can say this, probably can. I'm really grateful that I've spent so much time with my family during the pandemic, and I've had an amazing opportunity to spend more face-to-face time with my children than I ever would be. I also would like to add, there's such thing as too much time with your family. And that goes for me too. I'm not easy. So I believe that they gaslight dads and moms to make you think that you should be so lucky to spend as much time as possible with your children.
Yeah.
But before the pandemic, I would exercise my extroversion energy by meeting someone for coffee, by going to this. And us being kind of the Nacho family, constantly seeing each other, it's been a challenge because we don't have as many outlets, and sometimes work can take over your life. So it's a very difficult balance.
Yeah. Gosh, that was a constant conversation last year, because I'm more introverted. I'm like one of those social extroverts. I can do it. And was on all the Zoom meetings, and everything. But then I've got to have my time to recharge. And what the struggle with me sometimes is when I come home, and if I can't, if I'm just here constantly and everybody's here constantly, I never have time to withdraw and recharge. So my energy just starts to kind of go like this. And, and I have a little bit of travel built into my schedule, somewhat just even for that reason, because, get away and I'm out conquering, and get to be by myself and have dinner and then come back and I'm fully charged. How did you guys, cause husband and wife teams, they either really work or they really don't work. How did you guys start getting, did it just happen real naturally and subtly, or was it a conversation of okay, here's how this is going to go?
I think it's really an excellent question. So my dad was a dentist, worked with him for 11 years, amazing dad and mentor. He never told me to become a dentist. And probably that's why my brother and I became dentists. He was the best dad you could imagine. And we spent time together in the dental office as dad and sons. It was best memories of my life, and I'm so grateful for it. Unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but just awesome. Oh, the dynamic of a dad and son or mother and son is different than a husband-wife thing. Yeah. So I would never recommend or suggest, or I just want you to know, Mary would never demand for her to work at the front desk in my dental office. Now, husbands and wife who do that, I have no judgment, and some of it works perfect. But I believe the stress involved in running a dental office putting on that show every day can be very difficult. It would not be a good fit for me. But with this is, it was born a little out of necessity, because when you grow from startup into a functioning company, if you call us that, you need people to do jobs. And sometimes we're the only two people to do the jobs. Yeah. Like if someone has to get hired part-time at Dental Nachos, which is great, Mary would help me with that, because I literally didn't have anyone else to help me. And she saw how much was on my plate. So it just came born out of this company growing like a child from birth to now 3 years old, technically, I guess 3 years old. And then Mary seeing what she likes. I'll be totally honest. There's challenges with that, but I think the good outweighs it, because this is what I think. I enjoyed the time I spent with my dad. I never would have spent that much time with him if I wasn't a dentist. I believe whatever happens with this company, whether it's here 20 years from now or 2 years from now, Mary and I'll be very grateful we spent this time together, and the good outweighed the challenges.
Yeah. So I love that. I also want to ask you, what are the challenges?
Challenges are normal things of not being able to turn it off, because I'm a huge thinker. And I mean, I'm a huge thinker. That's a stupid thing to say. I'm huge into how the brain works.
Okay.
So I cannot cook anything. I cannot fix anything. I will ask you where my AirPods are while I'm wearing them. I'm not an easy person to be around, but I am really good with words. When Mary was a teacher, I would tell her how to write to her principal to ask off, and she would always get off, because I said, you're not saying it. When you said your mom don't text that way, I would say, don't write that way. Yeah. So what I believe is the challenge is not being able to turn it off, because when you think of something, you just say it. So it could be 10 o'clock at night, you'd be watching Schitt's Creek, and something happens with Dental Nachos. First of all, by the way, this could be good too, right? It could be, oh, one of our sponsors got like 4 new clients. I just thought of it, right? Oh, one of our sponsors, I'm so happy, Mary. We're sharing a great story, yeah. But it's just too much focus. A business is especially a startup business. My brother and I are dental partners. Yep. We have a much easier time of turning that on and off, because it's like a mature business. I mean, yes, stuff happens, but it's like, it's been in business for decades. Okay. But it's like, honestly, this probably happened to you and your wife when you were younger. And maybe they always say this, when you went out without your kids and you said you weren't going to talk about your kids, you probably talked about your kids.
Yeah.
And because in some ways you didn't have anything else to talk about, not in a sad way, just because that was such a big part of your life. So the challenge is turning it off. And then also, managing a team remotely has been very difficult. Something that would take me 2 seconds to write on a board. I'm always writing stuff, like 2 seconds to write on a board. Hey guys, we're all here. We're going to go to this event. I'm now like, are you on the Zoom? Is this the Zoom? No one's letting me in. I'm in the waiting room. So that has been a challenge between me and Mary, because we're kind of at home base all the time.
Yeah.
So those would be the challenges, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar on our end too. And I love that you said that, because I know Joanna doesn't always have it easy, because she is an external processor. Yeah, something can happen at night and she's launching into it, but I can have these moments where I'm like, yo, I'm up to here. Like I was up to here by 3 o'clock, and I need I am in mental health wellness mode right now. Like I'm watching basketball. Like I can't.
Right.
And so she has to kind of read that. But then sometimes I'm like, we have these amazing spontaneous conversations as well. Like something good happens, or like we actually figure crap out at like 11 o'clock at night. So she kind of almost has to navigate sometimes like where I'm at, and I have to navigate where she's at. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But yeah, in the end, like one of our conversations was as a married couple in our marriage, what are our values? Yeah. And one of them is that we work well together, and we want to do something together and be at the end of it and go, that was fun. That was awesome. A lot of fun. So I love that. Do you guys, any tools, any kind of boundaries, tools that you guys use? Is there like a little,
I'm always like, this is one of my favorite books I have here, the Checklist Manifesto. I always love this book. And I'm always looking to make things less annoying for everybody. So like we're attempting to rent a space where we all can be at. And I think what's happened is in the beginning of this pandemic, we enjoyed this meshing of work and family and play. And now I think we're all, I'm sharing I am, and our team is, and my wife is, getting burnt out by kind of it all existing in the same space. Yeah. And I think if we go back to a little bit of the 1960s of I go to work in this physical space, I come home, I actually think the process of driving to that place or walking to that place will reset your brain. Right now, I could turn this off and see what's happening with my 6-year-old. And while that was really good, it's starting to have some negative unintended, or just burnout unintended consequences. Negative, positive burnout, you know? So I'm trying hard to create a system for 2021, 2022, where we separate some of this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. I'm in the middle of, I kind of did some research. I'm setting up a different Zoom kind of meeting here thing next week. But I read this whole research about when you're looking at yourself and you never make eye contact with the person on the screen, you know, because of where the computer, you know, is all that, like it creates this level of mental, psychological fatigue. And I've got this whole setup where I'm actually going to go with a external camera with a teleprompter, so I can look into the camera and see the person in the camera, and have the computer to the side. I'm going to try that so it feels more face to face. It's going to be higher fidelity.
Oh, I think you're brilliant for doing that. I was just thinking with this, like, I've lived in front of this thing as a speaker and a person. Wow. Even this experience we have now, it is very weird. I'm seeing my own motions while I'm talking to you. This never happens anywhere else, right? I'm talking to a patient. I'm just fully focused on the patient, and I am out of the corner of my eye looking at you. Plus, I have these great media. I have a great guy I got introduced to, Terry Brock. He's like a just amazing media consultant, and he's trained me on this before this. And he's always like, look at the camera. But like right now, I'm probably looking best to the audience. It's very uncomfortable, right? Because right now I'm looking at this camera lens, not at Josh. And it's just, and then I also kind of see me doing this. So I think you're really smart to create a better way on Zoom, because the Zoom fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah. I'm going to mess around with it next week, and I'll probably do a post on it if it turns out well. So are you at your home now, or where's the studio?
So I love everything about Philadelphia. So, you know, when people are like, you live in a city and you don't have a backyard, I'm like, where's the bad part? I'm not a backyard person. Okay. I grew up in the suburbs, but I like everything at my fingertips. I walk 2 blocks to the gym, go to coffee places. So I just have this unique thing at 13th and Spruce where I live. The front part of my building was a small space where where this guy sent out gourmet food. He left. I got it 6 months before the pandemic. It saved my life. So I have this small studio space where I can have some team members and me. It's in the same building where I live. So it's not in my home, but it's like 8 feet from my home. So I do like this too, but we're looking for a place where the whole Nacho team can rent and be together. We previously were at one of those like co-working spaces, like a WeWork or Industrious, which really was a great energy, but we've been through this pandemic for over a year now, Josh. It's like, who's comfortable coming back? Are they open? It would have been terrible to keep it, because you remember, like, it would take us an hour to get groceries that used to take us 10 minutes early in the pandemic. So I'm just looking for a space we can call our own, be safe in it, and hopefully get back to a new normal-ish of interaction.
Yeah. Well, it feels almost kind of magical because you keep pulling stuff up.
Yeah. Oh, this is my thing. Yeah. I got my whole prop thing here. So yeah. Okay. I always say that I got a basketball. Yeah.
You know the comedian, I think it's Carrot Top. Like he would come out with
Nacho Carrot Top.
I was like, you had that vibe going.
I think it's funny, but everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. I do it to some degree because it keeps people interested. So if I'm like, hey guys, just want to let you know, this I start all my lectures. Hey, I just want to let you know, most dreams don't come true, because I wanted to play professional basketball. Now people are interested. But I grew to this. This is also my daughter's basketball. I can't palm a basketball. So I find that, and actually there's this great, I could give you this tip, and your listeners this tip, and viewers. So I want to review again. I'm not very good at things. Can't cook, can't fix things, but I've been a speaker for many years. I'm very comfortable doing that. I've taken a lot of training on it. So think of me maybe like somebody who plays basketball at a high level with speaking. And then think of somebody like my daughter who I'm teaching to play basketball. Sometimes there's this magical learning that goes for anybody, a 6-year-old to a 43-year-old. So How to Speak by Patrick Winston. It has 3 million views on YouTube. He taught at MIT, and he gave this magical 1-hour presentation on how to connect with people, whether you're applying for a job. And one of the things he talks about is a prop is so important when it fits, because if for the Super Dentist Boost, I had a basketball hoop for my daughter back here. And he talks about a play where there was a stove on stage. And he said the audience just pays more attention because that stove's on stage.
Yeah.
And there's so many good techniques to get people to pay attention. Because you're a great marketer, like getting people to pay attention is just so hard, whether it's an ad or a lecture.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. All right. So we'll wrap this up here, but thinking back to last year, 2020, everything that went down. Let's play a little like highs and lows. What was the most challenging thing for you last year?
The most challenging thing was having to not have 2 dental practices open for the first time in being a practice over 15 years. Having a team where you're not sure where their next paycheck was going to come from. This was before the PPP. Being in a state where if anyone ever said, I want to hear how you think, Paul, in podcast form, I would say, listen to how we built this with the founder of the Peloton. So this guy, John, every single word he said is how I think. And he started his company like same age as me. At the end of his podcast, the end of it, Guy Raz said, who do you want to thank? He said, I want to thank my parents. And everybody says that, right? Everyone says that. But he explained, right? Because I grew up in an environment where I was supported and I was lucky to be there. So I want to share accident of birth. I was lucky to be born to amazing parents, and we had 0 financial difficulties growing up. We had some family health difficulties. My mom passed away very young. My dad, died suddenly, but I'm very lucky for where I was born and what I got. So I'm sharing it this way. I knew that I had enough savings to not have a disaster. Okay. I knew that I could live my life and feed my family. Let's just use the example of a year, right? I agree more. Yeah. But I did it. My team could not do that. And that was really a low for me because your dental team's important to you. And my Nacho team is too, but interestingly, the Nacho virtual world kind of kept running. So that was a pandemic ship that could run virtually. But our dental office is shut down. There's no revenue coming in. You have 20 people working for you. There's no PPP. That was a true low where I felt unlucky. And I felt, I can't believe this happened to me.
Yeah.
A high point of this whole thing was my wife does a really good job getting me to eat better. I've always been someone who can exercise a lot, but I don't have the same physical shape that I had when I was 33. She's helped me eat better, and we've been eating less meat. I believe, smoking on airplanes, you can't believe that was a thing, and it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
You're smoking. I believe, and I didn't admit this, I believe that our world will eat a lot less meat, like smoking on an airplane. And I believe they'll say, you used to eat meat 21 times a week, right? And I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, but that's been an improvement in my food life. But in my business life, using all this technology and being forced to learn this technology has been a real high point. Doing all of this, I really now feel very agile to communicate with people through video that I didn't feel before. So that was the highs and lows for me.
Yeah, nice. Okay. 5 years from now, 2026, what do you see? What's ideal? What's on your radar?
I'm a person who's very interesting. I'm always planning, but I'm fairly a person who tries to be grateful, like Gary Vee says, for the moment. So for me, what's on my radar is hopefully continuing to do fun stuff with people that I like doing stuff for. Hopefully sharing help in a way in the dental community that's never been done before. In just my way, part of the solution. I don't need to be the whole solution, but I hope that people say, Dental Nachos has made me feel better about who I am as a dentist and human. That to me is everything. And to live up to kind of the Mr. Rogers world of, we like you just the way you are, but here are some ways for you to be happier the way you are. Because I think dentists have been left out in this entire conversation about kindness, whether it's patients saying they hate us, whether it's us hating on each other. And I just think a better world is possible. And if I can give you one piece of advice, or not tip, Raya and the Last Dragon is an amazing movie that is not just for kids. Yeah. And my friend Tariq recommended to me, and he said, this movie reminded me of you, because they kind of ruined the world by fighting. And then they realized that was not the way. So my hope is 5 years from now, we'll feel like we're closer to that than we are now.
Yeah. I took my daughter to see that a couple weeks ago on spring break. It was just a little father-daughter time.
Oh, that's awesome. Kumandra, that is what I like us to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, last questions. It's Friday. It's Friday night, long week. What are you guys eating for dinner? Like, what are you ordering? What are you drinking? How are you?
I usually Fridays have always kind of stayed in this fun type time. So we usually would go out and get a babysitter. But Elvez is our favorite Mexican restaurant, Dental Nacho headquarters in Philadelphia. So we usually will get nachos from there. burritos from there. They've done a great job with takeout margarita mix. Vanessa Stills watching. Local Med is an awesome sponsor and friend. They send me like a yearly bottle of Patron. So maybe I'll open up my Local Med Patron and add it to some margaritas. And I really have enjoyed a lot of the streaming stuff, like watching Schitt's Creek, watching The Queen's Gambit, watching Lupin. Lupin is just amazing. I saw Lupin. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Oh, you got to watch it immediately. It's one season right now. It's coming back next season. Yeah. So I've enjoyed a little more of a calmer thing with being at home, but getting some food from the outside. And then we usually watch a movie with our daughters first and then ourselves. So that's our Friday night.
So Lupin, is it Netflix?
Lupin on Netflix. Sebastian Maniscalco and Lupin. If you just say, you tell Joanna, Paul told us about this, you're like, I like this guy, Paul. Because I did nothing other than recommend it.
Yeah. Oh man, I was at Elvez, but it's been years ago. Last time I was in Philly, that place was so good. Yeah,
you got to come back again. Okay, we got to have a whole return to Philly, and we'll all do an Elvez thing. That guy Steven Starr is one of my idols. He builds different restaurants, amazing customer service, makes people feel good when they're in their environment. That's really, we do call it Dental Nachos headquarters. And it's funny, you're like a branding marketing guy, and I love the Elvez people. Okay, they always treat me well. So I take my family there on Christmas Eve, very traditional meal, Mexican food. So I always bring all these bags of Dental Nachos t-shirts. I say, hey guys, this is for you. You guys are awesome. But I used to work in a restaurant. So if you get free t-shirts, they freaking just like pennies go everywhere. But it's funny. I come back to the restaurant, a server goes like, if I'm wearing this, they go, oh, my boyfriend has one of those shirts somehow, right? So it's funny that I like the brand with fun positivity. Yeah. And that is a big part to me because that is our favorite place in Philadelphia. And you guys got to come back and go there with us once everything gets back to normal.
Oh man, yeah. You said that, I was like, it just brought back this like shot from the past because I remember how good it was. So yeah, I will absolutely take you up on that. I mean, last thing, if somebody out there's listening, want to get more about Dental Nachos and what you guys are doing, where's the best place to connect with you and the group?
Oh, awesome. Thanks for letting me share that. I'm really proud of our website, dentalnachos.com, kind of built around ESPN. It's called different tabs. And people can email me at salsa@dentalnachos.com. My team's great with that. I love hearing from people if they have a problem, want to share a story, if they just want to say what's up. So salsa@dentalnachos.com, or just go to our website, dentalnachos.com, and check and look around.
Yeah. Do you guys, so emails, like, do you have guacamole at Nacho?
Yeah, well, we did. It's great, but we only have guac because guacamole is too hard to spell.
Yeah.
So we have queso, nachos at dentalnachos.com, swag at dentalnachos.com. So yeah, we've tried to brand it all around that.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say you're a master brander yourself. Too, so give yourself some credit.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Hey, bro, thanks so much. I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And it was good to catch up. And I'll see you next week. See you next week. And I just want to share, I love doing this. I know how much work goes into producing these things. So you're doing an awesome job for the dentisting community, just getting this content out there. Yeah, man. Pleasure. Thanks so much, bro.
Thanks, yes, appreciate it.